It's hard out there for a dictator trying to deal with the United States. First, Ronald Reagan tries to kill Gaddafi, then George W. Bush makes peace with him, then Barack Obama kills him. Go figure.
Wow. President Obama is about to make a statement.
The dark shadow of tyranny has been lifted.
The man that President Reagan once dubbed the mad dog of the Middle East.
This mad dog of the Middle East.
This is one tough, not so nice guy.
Murdered Americans and others in the tragedy in Lockerbie.
I would not have intervened.
It's a big moment for the president.
I think there's a big sigh of relief.
Gaddafi, one way or another, is gone.
Rebels reportedly found Gaddafi in a hole.
The president was roundly criticized.
I would not have intervened.
He just took too long to do it, and he didn't do enough of it.
This was a direct action by the American military.
Does this validate the Obama administration's policy?
America spent $2 billion total
We achieved our objectives.
and didn't lose a single life.
I would not have intervened.
He put us in Libya.
I would not have used American and European forces. No doubt another significant win in President Obama's foreign policy column.
He gets to say, I told you so.
Pictures of elated crowds all day.
There is joy and relief.
The U.S. right now is very popular in Libya.
We can even hear children cheering, God is great.
I would not have intervened.
Now he has us engaged in yet another third Middle Eastern war.
I would not have intervened.
Who's the president of Becky, Stan.
President Obama congratulated the Libyan people today after Muammar Gaddafi, Libya's dictator for 42 years, was killed and rebel fighters captured the regime's final stronghold, Gaddafi's hometown of Sirte. This afternoon, the president stood in the Rose Garden on the heels of yet another foreign policy success and explained how he did it.
Faced with the potential of mass atrocities and a call for help from the Libyan people, the United States and our friends and allies stopped Gaddafi's forces in their tracks. A coalition that included the United States, NATO, and Arab nations persevered through the summer to protect Libyan civilians. And meanwhile, the courageous Libyan people fought for their own future and broke the back of the regime. For nearly 8 months, many Americans have provided extraordinary service in support of our efforts to protect the Libyan people and to provide them with a chance to determine their own destiny. Our skilled diplomats have helped to lead an unprecedented global response. Our brave pilots have flown in Libya's skies. Our sailors have provided support off Libya's shores. And our leadership at NATO has helped guide our coalition. Without putting a single U.S. service member on the ground, we achieved our objectives. And our NATO mission will soon come to an end.
It took less than 8 months to overthrow a 42-year dictator who sponsored the killing of American civilians in a terror attack. It cost $1 billion, that is billion with a B. Not a single American life was lost in the battle. Meanwhile, deposing Saddam Hussein has cost and continues to cost the United States over $1 trillion, trillion with a T, and more than 4,000 American lives, and we are still there. But don't expect the Republicans to give this president any credit. Presidential frontrunner Mitt Romney ducked the question on the campaign trail in Iowa this morning.
It's about time. Gaddafi, a terrible tyrant that killed his own people and murdered Americans and others in the tragedy in Lockerbie. The world is a better place with Gaddafi gone.
Just a short time ago, Romney did better the second time around when he was asked again. Romney had a lot more to say about the president's handling of Libya on a conservative radio show in March.
He's tentative, indecisive, timid, and nuanced. He calls for the removal of Muammar Gaddafi, but then conditions our action on the directions we get from the Arab League and the United Nations. America has been feared sometimes, has been respected, but today that America is seen as being weak. We're following the French into Libya.
Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida is willing to give credit to the French. Back in June, Senator Rubio didn't think the Europeans were up to the task.
Only when the Gaddafi mercenaries were on the outskirts of Benghazi, threatening to massacre thousands of innocent civilians, did the president finally agree to participate. But even that was botched. First, we ceded most of the operation over to our NATO allies, and God bless them for trying, but they do not have the military capability to finish the job.
But reacting to Gaddafi's death on Fox News this morning, Rubio was certain that it was the Europeans who finished the job.
I'm glad it's all working out. Ultimately, This is about the freedom and liberty of the Libyan people. But let's give credit where credit is due. It's the French and the British that led on this fight, and probably even led on this strike that led to Gaddafi's capture or to his death.
Such amateur guesswork could not survive this fast-moving news day. NBC News has learned that it was a U.S. Predator drone that fired on the 15-vehicle convoy carrying Gaddafi as he attempted to flee his hometown. Gaddafi escaped the attacked fleet and ran to a drain pipe where he was captured by rebel forces. It is not yet clear if he died from wounds from the airstrike or at the hands of his Libyan captors.
Joining me now is Bill Press, host of the Bill Press Show on Sirius XM Radio. Bill is writing about the Iraq troop pullout, calling it a promise made, promise kept. Bill, what will it take for the Republicans to give this president credit?
You know what, Reverend? Now, as one of my callers said this morning on my show, the Republican Party is like some of the banks down south, right? They refuse to give a black man credit, period. I mean, he could carry their mother out of a burning building, and they wouldn't give him any credit. And you know what I think the problem is? I think because his success in the foreign policy realm, and we'll go through the record, I'm sure, it exposes the folly of George Bush's policy. It shows that Bush was all talk, Obama's all action, Bush was wrong, and Obama's doing it the right way, and they can't stand it.
Well, look at what Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said yesterday on Meet the Press.
President Obama has passed with flying colors every leadership challenge. I mean, look at what he has done. I mean, just to name a few things. I mean, we were looking for bin Laden for, 10 years. It was under President Obama's leadership that he was finally eliminated.
Now, you said promises made, promises kept, Bill. Let me show you something. Senator Obama, in running, said this as McCain called him naive. Watch this.
If Pakistan is unable or unwilling to hunt down bin Laden and take him out, then we should.
The best idea is to not broadcast what you're going to do. That's naive.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda.
Well, Bill, who is naive and who delivered?
Yeah, no, exactly. And by the way, you could add certainly to Osama bin Laden, Anwar al-Awlaki, he's gone. Muammar Gaddafi is gone. The operation in Libya, huge success, 7 months, ending the Iraq war, which, by the way, candidate Obama also promised to do, finally ending that, bringing all of our troops home. In addition to that, Reverend, now, I checked out the numbers on these drone strikes against these terrorists in Pakistan who are attacking American troops. In 3 years, President Obama has overseen the killing of 1,400 of these terrorists. In 8 years, George Bush only 52. I come back to it. Bush and Cheney were weenies in this stuff. Obama's the real man of action.
Now, despite all of that, and despite some of us that are progressive disagreeing with some of the policies,
right,
he's done what he promised and he said he was going to do, yet it's not good enough for his Republican adversaries.
Well, you know why? I think because, first of all, I have to tell you, some of my liberal friends, Reverend Now, are saying they think Obama should give back his Nobel Peace Prize, right? Because he's been so tough. But look, here's the problem. They were planning to run, their whole thing was, they were planning for 2012 to run that 3 a.m. ad. Remember the Hillary ad against President Barack Obama in the primaries? Who's ready for the 3 a.m. call? They were going to run that against Obama. They can't run that anymore. That issue is off the table. President Obama has delivered. He's got a record unparalleled. He's the real deal when it comes to the war on terror.
Bill Press, thanks so much. We'll be right back.
Sometimes I think the critics of the president are just clearly unfair when they say he doesn't love this country, for example. And here's a guy of mixed background, and he said, only in this country, my country, is this story possible. And look where he is.